Hey everyone, getting my steps in right now. I thought I'd go ahead and make a little life update video because I've been making a lot of informative content recently, and I wanted to document, mainly for myself, but for whoever else wants to follow along, some big changes that are coming up in my powerlifting career. So the biggest change is I'm going to be moving down a weight class to the 83s. And what prompted this change was actually a couple of factors. One of them is the fact that now I am ranked within the top 40 in my weight class for this year in under Open IPF, so under Powerlifting America, just for the US, not worldwide. So I'm at that point where I'm pretty competitive within my class, to that elite level, relatively speaking. And at this point in my career, it's time to look at where I will be the most competitive, because, you know, although I've surpassed a lot of the lifters I started with as far as competitors go, the climb from number 36 to number 1 is a very, very steep climb. And at this point, when you're going against the best in the world, you have to look at where your body's going to be optimized for. And me and both my coaches were talking, my nutrition coach Fam and my programming coach Randall, and we think that now might be the time to go down to the 83 kilo weight class for a couple of reasons. One of them is just as far as lifestyle goes, my factors, all my T's and I's are crossed and dotted, meaning my sleep is very consistent. I have complete control of my schedule. My diet I'm consistent with. I never miss my steps. I basically have the ability to control just about all my lifestyle factors, even as far as like stress goes for the most part. So making a big cut down to 83s will be easier for me at this stage, as I've developed the discipline and consistency to get down there, and also the mindset as well. Like I know it's going to shave some kilos off my total, particularly in the subtotal. If anything, the deadlift's going to get better, which I'm excited about. I'll talk about that later. But looking at the competitive standings and my rate of progress, if I can make the cut down to 83, which I'd really be sitting at like 86 kilos, so that'd be like a 3-ish kilo water and gut cut, which I'm very comfortable with. I've actually cut up to 14 pounds before, although that was my limit. Definitely took a hit on my performance, but I can cut about 8 to 10 pounds pretty comfortably, even at a leaner class. But that would put me in the top 15 in the world, not just in the US. But by the end of next year, with my rate of progress, even considering going down a class and losing some kilos, I would be within the top 15 in the world. So that is the main reason. But the other factors that went into this consideration is also that for me in particular, my subtotal lifts, the main one that for most people that goes down is their squat. For me, my squat doesn't really change all that much going down a weight class. I'm sure it will when I get like down to the much leaner states, but just as far as leverage change goes, which is usually a big factor when you lose body weight, you know, you might not have as big of a stomach or legs to, like, you know, kind of artificially brace against each other when you hit the bottom of the squat. For me, because I do squat with a wider stance and I have relatively good, I have pretty good squat leverages. I can be pretty upright for the most part. I don't really run into that same issue. And then also, right now, me being at around 95 kilos or like 210 pounds, I am over 20% body fat. I am, this is just a guesstimate, but I'm guessing that I'm around 23%. My nutrition coach, just by eyeballing me, knows I'm over 20% at least, which means without a huge performance drop-off in terms of energy expenditure, assuming I'm keeping my micronutrients and carbs high, then me dropping to around 16 or 15% body fat which at my body weight, probably around like the high 180s or like 190-ish, there shouldn't be all too much of a difference. So for most lighter classes, which I would consider the 83s to be the start of the lighter classes, you want to be between 10 to 15% body fat for optimal performance. For me, I've always sat in other sports, I've always been like a little bit on the leaner side, but never super shredded. But for me, my best athletic performance across sports has been right around anywhere from the 13 to 16% body fat range. So it's going to be good getting back down to that, just in general, for feeling healthier. I'm not all too heavy, but relative for my frame and height, for reference, I'm like just under 5'7". Even with a larger frame, it's not super healthy long term to be the body weight that I am. And just feeling better and feeling a little more conditioned is going to have benefits of its own, especially if it doesn't have a huge hit to the total. But I'm mentioning all this to say that it's very case specific. Also too, my bench press is with a narrower grip now than it used to be, and meaning it's more of a brute force press. So I'm anticipating and hoping that I'm not going to lose that much off the bench press, but I'm thinking that I'll probably lose a little bit more off the bench than I will off the squat, at least initially. But it's nothing that can't be worked back up to. And also too, assuming my mobility gets a little bit better, maybe I can still maintain a pretty good arch position, because I've always had that flexibility. But until recently, I have never really considered going down a weight class in the long term, until I've just seen like the direction that powerlifting is going and how competitive everything is getting. You're going to have to be built to be lean in your weight class, in just about any weight class, except maybe the 120 pluses or the 84 pluses for women, in order to be a top level contender. There's not really there's not really room for, if you're going to be if you're going to have less muscle mass than your competitors. So for me, based on where my lean body mass has been, 83 is going to be a smarter move. And also too, now that I have momentum on all of my lifts, and I've made a big change switching from conventional to sumo, and it's going incredibly well. I feel like I finally tapped into my leverages, because I've actually always had a better leverage for deadlifting than I do bench press. I've got a +3 ape index, but I've just been pulling conventional for quite a while to build up my general strength, and because it's more consistent. But now that I've gotten back into sumo after only 3 blocks, I've already hit nearly 5 kilos above my best conventional for almost 2 reps within the same day. And it's just now that my technique has locked in. And my biggest issue with deadlifts as a 93 kilo lifter is that sometimes, because I have so much food throughout the day, I can't get into the right position for deadlifting, so I just kind of brute force it. And that's why I was sticking with conventional. But now, with going down a class, my positioning is only going to get better for deadlift. Also too, in pulling sumo, my back is never fatigued, and normally my back was always fatigued. Also considering how heavy of a squatter I am, low bar squatter, but I have no back pain whatsoever. My body feels extremely healthy. My consistency has never been higher on all of my lifts. And I know that as long as I do this within stages, it's going to be very appropriate for my strength gain into the class as an 83. So my plan is, by the first time I compete as an 83, I'm going to out-total my best 93 performance. I will do one more competition after the one that I'm doing this weekend as a 93, but I'll be a light 93, and that's going to be Powerlifting American Nationals in Lake Tahoe. And I'm planning to weigh in around 90, 91 kilos, or at least come into the competition, around like sub 200 pounds. Of course, because I have the advantage of not having to do a water cut, I'm probably going to weigh in maybe close to that 91 kilos because I can actually eat on the day that I compete, which will be cool. But in general, I'm going to sit a little bit lower, so it's going to improve my deadlift leverage, and minus 10 pounds at my body fat percentage should not mean any decrease in strength whatsoever. And after that meet is when I'm going to make a more aggressive cut down to the low 190s. And at that point, I'm expecting a bit of a strength drop off. My rough plan is I'm going to go ahead and say it. I like calling the shots ahead of time. Being a little bit ballsy like that puts pressure on myself, even if no one's really watching this. But I'm planning to, at my next meet that I do this weekend, I'm going to do a 694 pound squat or 315 kilos. That's going to be roughly a 30 or 27 pound competition PR. So last time I did 667 or 302.5 kilos back when I was actually heavier. And I've also switched to soft sleeves now, so that's just a huge increase on squat. Bench press, just as big, if not a bigger increase by percentage, because last time I competed I benched 402. I'm gonna do 429 this time. And then for deadlift, just planning on hitting a nice clean 300 kilos or 661 pounds, which is an 11 pound PR. But I'm pulling it sumo this time, and the goal is to make it look like a second attempt. So that way we know that I would have something like closer to 680 in the tank. And then at Nationals, it's in March, so it's going to be roughly 4 more blocks out for me. My plan is to finally drop the hammer and squat over 700 pounds, hoping to make the prime time. If I don't, no big deal, because I will the following year at least. 711 pound squat, planning to bench press 452 pounds, get that 450, and I'm planning to deadlift at least 689, but honestly I think by then I could be pulling 700, so we will see. And after that point, over the next 4 blocks is how I have all these things planned and paced out for. When I do make that big drop initially down to the low 190s, I'm expecting, and I always estimate conservatively, that I'll be able to squat 683. So it's going to be a decrease in strength until I stabilize out. I'm estimating a 424 bench. And again, these numbers could be quite a bit more. And by then I should be deadlifting at least 711 pounds. And right there, I believe that already puts me in around like a low 800, maybe 825 kilo total. I think something like that. Yeah, that should be put me around 822 and a half, 825, something like that, which already right there, just as a gym total, does put me in the top 20 for the class in the IPF. And then I have 8 more blocks until I compete after that. So with all that time, my plan is just to get back up to my previous best numbers as a 93. So that's only about like 10 more or 12 and a half more kilos on the squat and bench in 32 weeks. It's plenty of time to get back up there, especially since it's a weight I've already done before and I'm not super leverage dependent. But add a fat amount to my deadlift and try to get my deadlift up to the mid 700s by then, which, since I haven't really experienced any fatigue just in general with the style of pulling sumo, I don't think that's going to be unrealistic. And right there, that'll be when I make my debut as an 83. Don't know if I'm going to do my first meet at Nationals, or if I'll do another meet like around that time and try to qualify for one of those higher level local meets for another year. Probably going to go straight into Nationals. But I know that my total doesn't count as a 93 going down a class, it only counts if you go up a class. So I'll have to compete with the general population in like the non-prime time division, which is totally fine by me, because the point is just to put up a really good performance and make a statement. And it doesn't matter if I'm in prime time or not to do that. So hopefully by then, 850, 860 kilos would put me in a very competitive range worldwide. And from there, we'll keep building, see how far we can get. Yeah, but that's my long-term planning. If anyone is watching this for non-entertainment purposes, wants to learn something out of it, the only reason, once again, why I am going down a class, the only reason why anyone should really go down a class is, one, lifestyle factors have to allow it. Meaning, you have to have your steps on lock, your sleep on lock, your diet in control, even as far as like tracking your water and electrolytes. You gotta pay attention to those things if you're gonna get lean, have good micronutrients, even have like a decent income to get a decent quality food. Don't need to be breaking the bank or anything like that, but you should be able to be willing and capable of investing in your health and performance. So that's number one. Two, you have to really consider if it's best for your body type. Like me, I'm a shorter guy in a relatively heavier weight class, and it's going to be better for me to get into that correct body fat percentage zone. And that 10 to 15% is for men. I don't know exactly what it is for women off the top of my head. So might want to look around for that if you are a female lifter watching this video. And then number three, I already am in the top 40 in my weight class in my country. So it's being elite enough, competitive enough, already having built a base that you are objectively very, very strong is really important to consider before dropping a class, because if you are not allowing yourself to grow, and also too growing while developing habits, because most likely, I mean, I don't need to be this body fat percentage, but it made it easier along the way because I didn't have the habits in order to support the goals that I had yet. I had to develop that over time. And your habits are never going to be perfect. And if you think you're doing them perfectly, you're absolutely crazy. You're not. There's always something you could be doing better. But if you are at least getting within 95% of what you're supposed to be doing optimally for each of those categories, then you're probably good enough to consider that, especially at the elite level. And fourth reason would just be personal preference, lifestyle. I mean, for me, I have a high metabolism. I don't like really throwing that around, but my maintenance for my body weight is anywhere between, depending on how much activity I'm doing, 3,800 to 4,200 average calorie count per day each week. And that's quite a chore to get in. So that's definitely something to consider as far as consistency goes. If you're, to an extent, you're always gonna have to force yourself a little bit to build muscle, to eat enough calories, to eat the correct calories if you want to make progress. Powerlifting isn't supposed to be easy, especially if you actually get good at it. There's a huge drop off between the people who take it seriously and the people who are casual. But regardless of either one that you are, just think of those considerations. You don't really have to think of the elite one quite as much, but you should have a decent baseline before you really try to get lean. Otherwise, you're going to get demotivated when you lose a bunch of progress and you don't do your cut correctly. But those are all the considerations I have. I know this video is a little less organized, more of a ramble, just me walking around the park, but that's the direction that I'm going for my training. And yeah, you guys are going to see lean coach going forward, or leaner coach. And we're going to see what we can do. Still got big goals. I still want to total over 2,000 pounds or over 910 kilos. So we'll see. The climb only gets steeper as you get to the top. But I love training anyways. So regardless of what happens, I'm going to see what my potential is and see what kind of discipline I can build and how strong of a version of myself I can become.